Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to our day 2 of our Power BI webinar, our Business Analytics and Insights with Power BI webinar. So, yesterday, I just want us to type 1 if you can hear me. Just type 1. Okay, great. I can see Farouk. Nice. Okay, Hadiza. Yeah, I can see. Tochiku, yes. Okay. Okay, Shokwe, yes. FIFO, yes. Okay, so we cannot hear me. So let's quickly start. Yesterday, we learned some basic things about Power BI. We learned what is analytics, what does analytics really mean, and what is BI. Then we went further to look at the basic rules that should guide our data sheet or our data table before we start analysis. So after then, we looked at data analysis with Power BI, the 7-step process or the 7 pillars. Then we also delve into some practical, like we got data from an Excel file, transformed the data, load the data, and cleaned it. We did all this process with Power Query. Then lastly, we created a calendar table with DAX formula. So today, I'm just quickly going to project so that we can see our learning objectives for today. So for those that received the notification earlier, you should have gotten that. So before we look at our learning objectives, I saw some people ask some questions. So yesterday, which I was unable to attend to. Let me just quickly answer them before we proceed. So can everyone see my screen? Please type 1 if you can see my screen. Okay. Okay, great. So one of the questions was, can we duplicate the date column since it is a DAX? It's a DAX date. So my answer to that is that there won't be any point duplicating that particular column. So what we can do if I don't even think it's necessary to have 2 date column on a date table. So in case you want to have 2 date columns, all you just need to do is to create a new column and write the DAX formula that equals to calendar date. Then you have the date there as well. So the other question was, can we get the video for today? Yes. Like I did yesterday, I shared the video on YouTube. So everyone should have access to that video. So the other question is, the detect data type, will it change it to the type of data it's meant to be, or everything will be in text? So what detect data type does is that it changes the data to what it needs to be. But as I said yesterday, there are some codes. So like for those of us that do analytics, we have this experience that anything that is code is better it remains in text format. So but Power BI, if it sees it as number, if there's no text in or around it, it will just change it to number. So that is why we don't even use detect data type for anything that is a code. So that is it for yesterday. So the questions that we couldn't answer. So let's go straight to what we have for today. So today we are going to create calculated columns from 2 tables on Power BI desktop. Then we are going to I'm going to give further explanation on fact and dimension files. Then we are going to create a model with Power BI, a data model with Power BI. Then after then, we are going to organize, I'm going to show you how to organize your measures, Power BI measures using tables and folders. Then we'll write some simple measures and we'll write some advanced measures relating to time intelligence. So let's quickly let's quickly start because time is of the essence. So let's quickly start. So this is the Power BI file that we used yesterday. Yes. So this same Power BI file, that is what we are going to use today. Okay, sorry, before I start, let me just get this highlighter so that you'll be able to see the cursor properly. Let me just get that highlight. I think I have it on my downloads. All right. Now we are going to start with the first objective. So the first objective is to create calculated column from two tables. So what we want to achieve with that is on our sales table, right? Or let's start from expenses. On our expenses table, we have the cost code, the expense date, and the expense amount. So we don't really need to bring anything here. Budget table. Okay. So let's go to sales. So for sales, we have the item sold, but we don't have things like what is the value of the item. These 12 items now, what is the value? What is the sales value of that item, of these 12 items? Then we don't have the cost price in here as well. So we don't have the cost price. Then we don't have the cost price, we don't have the selling price, and we don't have revenue as well. So we are going to create calculated column to bring the cost price, and the selling price from our product table. If we look at our product table, product list, so you will see that we have the selling price and the cost price per item. So there is a formula that we call related. So what related does is that it looks at two tables and picks the unique identifier from that table, then pass whatever function you want to pass from into one table from another. So let's just quickly do that. So for product list now, we have item ID on product list. On our sales as well, we have item ID. So we are going to use this item ID as a unique identifier. The interesting thing is that Power BI is so powerful that you don't have to call it that it's item ID that relates the two tables. It automatically searches the table itself and pick that up. So let's quickly practicalize it. We create new column. New column. So we call this let's call this cost price. So our cost price will be equal to, so we want to multiply items sold in this table by the cost on the product table, by the cost per item on the product table. So all we just need to write is, we call this table, our table name is sales. We call sales table, then we pick up items sold. Yeah. So we want to multiply it by the cost, the cost of this item on the other table. So we multiply it by, if we just say, okay, let's call up our product table from here. Let's just see if it will come up. You can see that it's not coming up. No matter how we call it, it won't come up. Product. It's not coming up. But if we use related, then it brings all the table available on the model. So we call related, then we call the table name product list. The table name is product list. We can see product list here. What we need from product list is cost per item. We just take tab to bring it in. So this multiplies the item by its cost. So that gives us, so the 12 of this particular item, 27696, 12 of it costs 24 naira. That is at the rate to be like 2 naira per item. Hmm? So if we want to validate, this is how you can validate it. Let's take this number 27696. So let's check our product table just for validation. 27696. Let's type it here. 27696. Yeah, okay. So you can see disinfectants, 2 naira, 2 naira and 3, so some covers per item. So it's just to validate that our calculations are intact. So let's go back to our sales table. The same formula that we use in getting the total cost, we use the same formula to get the selling price. So, sorry, not new table, new column. So I have to take this out. Let me quickly take this out. I'm supposed to create a new column, not a new table. So go out. So I come to my sales table. So new column. So I call this selling price. So my selling price, the same. I'll call up my sales table. Sales table, I'll pick my item sold. My item sold is a column within sales table. Multiply by related. I go to my product again. Instead of cost price this time, I pick selling price per item. So the same logic. So I get the selling price. Oh, the next thing now is to get the revenue. Our revenue is what? Cost price, selling price minus cost price. So the difference between selling price and cost price will give you the revenue. So revenue is equal to, so to call up any calculated column, you can use a square bracket. So it will call up all your calculated column and measures as well. So we say selling price minus, put the box up again, cost price. Okay, that's cost price at the top. Okay. Okay. So let me just quickly explain something to you. Calculated columns and measures are the same thing. The only difference between calculated column and measures is that calculated columns reside in between, just in a table, not in between, in a particular table. That is where a calculated measure resides. A calculated column resides in a table, while a measure can reside outside the table or inside the table. A calculated column is called an implicit measure, while a measure is called an explicit measure. So that is just the difference between, it's the same DAX. So the difference is that calculator can only stay in its specific table, while measure can stay in or out of the table. So the other thing we are going to use related to calculate is our revenue budget. Our revenue budget, yes, that would be our revenue budget, and our cost budget as well. So let's come to the revenue So we are going to insert a new column. So since we have the budget of the number of items sold, so we have the cost per item and the revenue per item. Same thing. So we call this, let's call this sales value. So that is sales value budget, because this is budget. The same logic. So we call up now this one is budgeted items sold. So square brackets to call up the column, budgeted items sold, multiply by related. We call up the product list. This is selling price per item. Then we enter. So that is the sales budget value. New column again to include our sales cost of items, like budgeted cost of items. So let's call this budgeted cost of items. That will be equal to items sold, budgeted items sold, multiplied by related product lists, call our products, oh sorry, related product list is here. We pick cost price. Okay. So now the same logic that we used for sales revenue, we are also going to create a calculated column for revenue budget. Revenue budget. So that will be equal to square bracket sales value budget minus budgeted cost of items. So budgeted cost of items. Okay. Let me quickly wipe this. Okay, let's move further. So we are done with creating the calculated columns that so we need to create for this particular analysis. So we are going to move to the next step, which is data modeling. Let's move to on this third tab. Should I call it tab? This is our model. So let's click on model. So we can see. Let me reduce this a bit so that I can drag all the tables to the center, and so we can see all the tables on our model. So you can see that there are some connections in and around everywhere. In some places, you can see some connections here. So what we do is I want to show you how to effectively design your model. Most times, when you import data and clean it up and load it, it will automatically create this data model for you, yeah, on its own. But I advise you that, okay, look at it, and for practice purposes, I want us to look at it and create it on our own. There are some cases that these models, they don't just create properly for one reason or the other. So let's practice it. I'm going to remove all these ones I've created. So to remove it, it's just to right click and delete. So delete relationship. So why I delete each and every one, I also tell you just briefly a little bit about data relationship in data modeling. So there's what we call cardinality, how data are related. So there can be many to many, one to many, many to one, and one to many, many to one. Yeah, I think that is about it. I just want you to just go and read about that. So just something you just have to read about. It's not that difficult, but I'm sure you should understand when we finish creating this particular model. But again, I want to talk about fact and dimension files. We talked about it briefly yesterday. So we said fact file, because this fact and dimension file is very key in for you to use Power BI. It's very key you understand fact and dimension file. So what is a fact file? So fact file is that file that updates. It can be updating per second. So it's a transactional file. Like for example, in telcos, people are buying airtime almost every time, almost every second or every minute. People are buying data. That is a fact. But again, the person that is buying that particular data, the person does not change. So it's still, the person still has the same phone number. So in that kind of data, phone number can serve as a dimension to count the person's transactions, right? So phone number can serve as a dimension to count that particular transaction. Let's give another scenario. Okay, for example, we have different regions and we have different salespeople that are purchasing things from different regions, or salespeople that are selling things in different regions. So that region does not change often. So the region is the dimension file of the data, but the sales numbers are the fact file because they update on daily basis or on per second. Now, let's just do these connections. So to do these connections, let me move everything concerning expenses to one particular area. So I move, let me zoom this out a bit so that we can see the table properly. So this expenses one. So I move this here, I move this here. I move three here. So I move these here. Yeah. So for expenses, let me connect my expenses. So here is my expense, here is my cost code. So I can connect cost code to cost code here. I just drag it. I just drag this from here, cost code, I connect it with cost code. Then if I want to just be sure that I'm connecting the right thing, I just highlight it, you can see. So this is my budget for costs. I connect the cost code to the cost code as well. So I'll be able to use this dimension of expenses to dimension my costs into different type of costs. So the next table I want to bring here is my date table. Let me bring it close. So my transaction, my expense transaction is related to a particular date. So I connect this date to the expense date. Then this date here again, for my calendar, I can connect it as well to my expense budget, so that I can use this date to dimension both the expense budget and my actual expenses. So the next table I'll bring here is my sales table. Let me look for sales. So I'll bring them bit by bit so that we can see how the model comes to life. So this is my sales table. So for this sales table, I want to connect dates to my sales date so that I can dimension by sales by dates. You can see as this is now, this model, this table for sales is connecting to this table for all this table for expenses as is now. So that is the beauty of a data model. You can connect all your data together, no matter what that data is. So the next thing I'll bring here is my products. My products. I want to connect product to my sales. I bring my product down here. So I have item ID here. I also have item ID here. So I can connect it. So my product list is connected to my sales table. Now, I'm going to bring my staff list. So this is my staff. So the connection to staff is staff ID, right? And I have staff ID here as well. I bring this down, connect staff ID to staff ID. Connected. So the next thing I want to see here is my revenue budget. Yeah? For my revenue budget, I connect, where's my date table calendar? I connect it to my dates on the revenue budget. So it's called months here in this case is actually dates, really. So just to avoid, let me move it downwards just to avoid these things overlapping. So I also connect my product list to my product list using item ID to my revenue budget. So you will see the benefit of this connection when you start creating measures. So the next thing is my staff list, so that I'll be able to cut each staff by the budget allocated to that staff by product. So I take my staff ID, I bring it down here. So let me just show you the other way to connect apart from dragging down. So I want to connect staff ID to staff ID revenue budget. I can come up here. You can see manage relationship. I can click on manage relationship. Then what do I want to do? I want to create a new relationship. Click on new relationship. So what relationship do I want to create? I want to create, I want to connect, what is it? My staff list, that is dim staff. I want to connect it to what? Revenue budget. Yes. So you can see it has automatically dictated it that is connecting it by staff ID. And there's what we call this cardinality. That's what I was talking about. One to many. So one staff ID in unique staff ID in staff list connecting to many staff ID of the same type, but they're just appearing multiple times because of the budget value for each month for each product. So this is another method. Click on OK. So all my tables are connected and they are knitted nicely. Oh, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create tables that holds your measures, where you will store your measures, so that when you are doing analysis, you won't have to be moving from one place to the other looking for measures. So that will also save you very critical time, right? So let's quickly do that. To do that, I just need to come to my home tab on my canvas. Come to my home tab. I do enter data. Enter data. So it brings this table up for me. So what I'll do here is to create a table where I will store all my measures related to sales. So I call the name of the table sales. I call it sales measures. Anyone that works, sales measures. Click OK. I load it. So it's applying you will see a table here right now. Okay. Yeah. Sales measures. You can see the table. Apparently, I don't know. It seems I'm running out of time. So can we just rejoin again? Hmm? If you can hear me, press 1. So I just end this meeting and we'll rejoin again. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to end this. Just rejoin. Just rejoin again. Okay. Thank you.